From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the Business, Equity, and Opportunities Podcast with Scott Sander.
Welcome to the Business, Equity, and Opportunities Podcast. I'm Scott Sander. Today's pod is an exclusive extended edition with extra information and conversation beyond what you saw in our Sunday morning broadcast. 2025 is turning into quite a year for Centier Bank. It's Indiana's largest private family-owned and operated bank, celebrating 130 years of service as it expands to new communities across central Indiana. Centier just earned its first J.D. Power Award for customer satisfaction. Our Business, Equity, and Opportunities team visited Centier Bank headquarters up in Merrillville to meet with CEO Mike Schrage. Indianapolis Business Journal has named him to its coveted 250 list, one of the most influential and impactful leaders in the state.
Every business is unique and has a target audience. If you own or manage a business, Circulus Digital Media can help you connect and grow your customer base with turnkey digital solutions that are nimble, offering best-in-class results, service, and support to reach a bigger customer base, allowing you to pinpoint a specific audience down to the smallest details. Get outside the city, the state, span the globe. Put Circulus Digital Media to work for you. Get started now at circulusdigital.com. That's circulusdigital.com.
I don't know if you had that much time, but how did it all start? You know, Christoph Schrage came over from Germany in the mid-1800s, and one of his sons, Henry, decided that he was settled near Whiting, Indiana, which was mostly swampland, and they started a little village there, and they decided they needed a bank to move from a village to a city and to incorporate the city of Whiting. And so he muscled the resources up and started the first bank there with a small amount of money, and he stewarded it into the Depression of the 1930s, which he passed away during. And you know, he's been my inspiration. He really gave it all. He put his entire estate at the time he died, not to his heirs, but to a fund at the bank that the fund could use during the Depression that he died during. And during this Depression, the banks went bankrupt all over the country, thousands and thousands and thousands of them. The only way the Bank of Whiting survived was with his estate, because he let the bank take that as their fund to fund all the bad loans. And so, you know, to me, he made the ultimate sacrifice. And, you know, from him, there was one of his sons, Walter Sr., mayor of Whiting for 12 years, was more in the political realm of things. My dad, Walter Jr., was more the socialite of Whiting. Every club and organization that there was, you know, I never saw him at home. He's Lions and Moose and, you know, Rotary and all the things. And so I came along in 72 after spending a couple summers in the bank doing some of the teller work and loan work and things. And, you know, with that, it's been a 53-year career, taking the bank from 2 offices to now 61 offices. You know, from, let's say when I started with his $30-some million in assets, now we're all $10 billion, with just a north half of Indiana footprint, which we're continuing to expand upon significantly, especially in the Indianapolis area and Fort Wayne are our focus areas right now. And so we'll see more of those coming along.
I'm going to step back just a little in that conversation, because I know that you have a philosophy of people first, and I can see where the bedrock of that came from. Talk a little bit about how that applies now.
My parents brought me up fairly frugally for the status they had in the community, but Whiting's always been a blue-collar community, so most of the doctors, attorneys, you know, lawyers, everybody else lived in Hammond, Gary, other places. They lived with the blue-collar workers, the steel workers, the refinery workers, the Lever Brothers soap factory workers. And so I grew up in a real frugal atmosphere. My parents brought me up that way. And, you know, it's it's meant a lot to instilling in the bank the value of relationships. Okay. And I call it relationshipping, that our style of banking is relationshipping, not only with our associates here at the bank, but with our customers, and really putting them first. And as a private company, we have the advantage of being able to do that. Sometimes I'm asked, well, what's the difference between a public company and a private company? There's a huge difference. Public company, first priority is the stockholders. Okay, the growth, the earnings, the earnings per share, the stock price, those come later for us. It's all about here first, our employees. Somebody say, well, why not the customers? Customers should be first. Well, to me, if we're taking care of our employees, they're going to take care of the customers, and then the stockholders come after that. And a private company can do that, whereas a public company doesn't have that flexibility of having to meet earnings calls and all these other things. And so we're able to reinvest in our communities at a very measured pace. You're not going to see us grow. We don't acquire other banks. We don't try and grow at 20% a year and look for acquisitions. 8 to 12% is our sweet spot. And for a lot of reasons, it's digestible for us in being able to find the right kind of talent that fit into the Centier culture in the organization. When you grow significantly, you're just finding bodies to fill roles, and we're very specific in our personality profiling of people that fit the culture, and we'll teach them banking.
Well, this is a perfect segue into a very special award that you have just received. Let's talk about that, J.B. Cower, right now.
The bank has had many accolades over my career and even before my career. Many times the best place to work in the state and in the region, in Forbes, and we've had multiple years of accolades there. The crowning thing for me in my career has been the J.D. Power Award. It is, in my opinion, the most scientific, statistically accurate measurement of true customer satisfaction. It's not just our customers' popularity contest with us. I mean, this is a scientific study. It's been going on for 60 years. J.D. Power Awards have been for 60 years. Most people remember it in the auto companies and agricultural areas, and they branched into other industries. So we started applying for it 7 years ago, and we were always too small because you have to have so many people across a 5-state area say, Centier is the best bank for satisfaction. These aren't our customers. Anybody, that they would send these surveys to. And you had to get 200 of these. And we'd always get 140, 170. And it wasn't until this past year in March that we actually hit the qualifying status of 200. And to me, it was a surprise. We've been ranked number one by them in the north central region of the U.S. for the last 3 or 4 years, but we never, quote, qualified because we didn't have enough ballots in or enough votes in because of their sampling basis of a 5-state area. And we're just a northern Indiana bank. When you put in Michigan, Kentucky, Ohio, places like that, we're not known. And so, it was a surprise that we made it this year, and thrilled to death. And it was, one of my crowning achievements, or the bank's crowning achievements, in our maturation of success and prowess in the banking industry. It is the cum laude grace of awards in industry and in banking. And, we not only were number one in this north central 5-state region, we actually had the highest rating in the entire country.
When we talk about that client service, do you have any stories that you'd like to share?
Oh, there's so many. Boy, it's hard to pick out. I mean, it's not the it's not the big ones. It's the small ones. It's the small ones where, somebody just, a teller, a customer service rep at a branch, you know, went out and just went above and beyond to do something for somebody, because they couldn't make it in and they had to get the payment in or something, and they drive to their house to get it for them and bring it in. And just just taking those extra steps that we don't find common anymore. Maybe back 50 years ago, it was a more common type of thing you could expect, a more personalized, smaller country or population. But with the AI and data processing and all this stuff of efficiency, 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 a lot of those things have disappeared. We've tried to retain those and make those to be the alternative to the large banks, indifference to people's feelings, and trying to instill hospitality, not efficiency, into everything that we do for the public, and not just the consumer, but the businesses, the communities. I mean, we infiltrate all those with our people and our money.
How are you instilling that into the branches so that in Indianapolis and other locations that you're branching out to?
Well, very methodically, okay? It goes back to not growing too fast, too quickly, and measured growth, measured hiring. It all needs to be measured, otherwise you'll lose it. And companies through the years ebb and flow with their level of customer service. We can take Disney, for instance, who's one of the companies that I model the bank after. I'm a big fan of Walt and what he brought to the organization. And being private, we don't have to grow like they have to do. They have to satisfy Wall Street. We don't have to. So I have that advantage. We hire people who have servant hearts, okay? These are teachers, nurses, people who are caring, educators, people like that, they're not after a career of money. They're after a career of satisfaction, of fulfillment. And so you have to hire the right material. And they're not that common, okay? And so we're very selective with our hiring process. I've put off building branches in communities where I've owned the property for 7 years because we couldn't find the right staffing. To me, the staffing is the crux of what we're doing. In banking, we've seen the disappearance of so many banks. They're kind of boarding up a little bit, and people are going to more population centers or activity centers. So, there will be fewer banks. The small banks do offer that personalization, but we've seen the disappearance of so many of those, and we're going to see the disappearance of more of them. We're going to keep that in place and not be distracted by profits, growth, earnings per share and all that. That's a discipline. That's only a family can do that. Okay. Wall Street will not do that. They won't put up with that. So we will bring that uniqueness for generations to come.
You have such great intentionality of where you're putting these locations, and how does that equate back to the family-owned business view, looking at the community that you're actually locating in?
Well, you have to be very disciplined. As we sit here today, we can see Illinois and Chicago from here on a clear day. We're not in Illinois, yet it's right outside our window. Why aren't we in Illinois? Well, there are about 300 banks over there. Indiana has less than 100. And we've really defined our future market as Indiana only. That's a very disciplined approach. Okay, we're not going outside the borders of Indiana in the next quarter or half century. I don't know. I won't be around probably that long. But, that is part of the goal there. No matter how attractive that silver bling is in Illinois, Michigan, Kentucky, or Ohio, we're not going. And we're going to, there's plenty to do here. Years ago, we expanded from Whiting through Lake County, then Porter County, a little bit in LaPorte County, and I said, now what? To the south was all rural, was all agricultural. We don't do agricultural. We don't know agricultural. Doesn't mean we can't gain a team of people and specialize in it, but we've not decided to do that. So we consciously decided on, let's go to 4 population centers, because the small communities, the small towns, the rural towns weren't growing. So what are you going to do there? And they already had their own little family community bank in them. So we said, with all the acquisitions and the big acquirers, they don't go to the small towns either. So we said, let's go, and we picked out Lafayette, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, and the greater South Bend, Elkhart area, Michiana. And we've built out most of Michiana. We have built out most of Lafayette. We are just in our infancy in Fort Wayne with a second office coming here later this year. 2 more offices planned in the next 2 years, already with the ground acquired and under design. So Fort Wayne will be a focus for us. Indianapolis is a big community for us to take on as a small bank. There are a lot of big players there. So, we focused on the north side of Indianapolis. We're working our way down the west side and the south side, but there's a lot more that needs to be done to effectively be a significant player in the Indianapolis community. So you'll see us continuing quite a bit of expansion down there.
How important is it to you, and let's expand on this, to bring that family-owned feel of the business into these metropolitan areas?
It's disappeared. There aren't very many family banks left in these cities. Okay, you go to the rural areas, yes, there are. They're going to have trouble, as I said earlier, keeping up with technology and hiring people and salaries and all those things that will make them somewhat extinct dinosaurs for the future. So the city's dominated by the larger banks, and we offer an alternative. We can do that because of our size, our flexibility, things of that nature. We have all those elements to bring those to the fore. And I've had other banks say, well, we're going to copy your model, your style. I said, good luck. I said, it takes decades, okay? Don't think you're going to do it in a year or two. I mean, you got to start right from, every person that works there, to be very selective. Every one of our 1,100 people represent us.
You've accomplished a lot. You have, I would say, done the family proud, okay, as you represent it. Yeah. And as you look back on that, how does that make you feel, and how are you bringing that those family-owned values? Does that warm your heart? Give me that, Edie.
First of all, instill it in the rest of my immediate family, okay? I had 3 daughters. Thought the youngest was going to be more involved. She is starting to get more involved. She's 41 and more in a governance standpoint. So we're going to see Schrage involved in an active way at the board level. 2 son-in-laws in the business now. One's been with me 19 years. One's 10 or 12 years in. So, they've been, I don't want to say tutoring, but I'm trying to apprentice them into thinking the whole idea of, what we could be for the future, and instilling that in now the grandkids. I have 4 grandkids, and spend time with them, developing them into the importance of being frugal at times, not trying to, get out over your skis, which is easy to do. And I did it several times in my 53 years. as we all have, and fallen. And so trying to instill those kind of things in them so that they won't have quite as disastrous a fall as some of us have in our lives. And, with the employees, instilling in them, I read about 60 books a year. Okay. Not audios. I'm a listener, not a listener. It goes in one out, ear and out the other, and scientifically, you retain 10 to 15% of what you hear or something. What you read, maybe 30% or better. I read, I underline, I highlight, I go back when I'm done with books at the end of the year and reread the best ones, my highlights from the best books, to instill that in them, in me, and in the culture. And then I share 8 of those books, typically about 8, what we call Mike's Likes. And I have the officers read them. And I make 2 or 3 mandatory. And said anybody can read 2 or 3 books in a year. Okay, you can't read 60 like I do. I didn't read 60 when I was a young guy and had a young family. Now I'm at the pool on vacation or on the on the dock, on the weekends reading. So you have to appreciate their stage of life, if you would. But anybody can fit in 2 or 3 books, and so it gets them into my head, my thinking. And that says a lot. So they say, now I get it. Now I understand what hospitality, it's not restaurant hospitality or hotel hospitality is changing sheets and delivering food, but it is hospitality. It is serving. It's a form of service. And you really inculcate that into their mind a little bit. It's a shift of a paradigm. And I'm working hard on that right now, and bringing in a whole team of people in a hospitality division of the bank, and it's going to be significant in our future, certainly for our longevity.
This is a big year for you. What are some of the milestones that stick in your mind that you're so proud of that?
I guess is the embracing of the whole culture at Centier by our employees, by our customers. I mean, they're enamored with us. I mean, they're in love with us and our surveys and everything. And really being a place for the people, okay, not a place for profits and all that kind of things. And, I'm really thrilled that how our employees have adapted to that or embraced it, and our customers have embraced it. Our best form of employee recruitment is our customers and our current employees. That's where we get most of them, and they go out and they stay at a hotel or a restaurant locally, say, hey, have you ever thought about banking? And they go, banking? Really? I'm a waiter at a restaurant. But no, you're a great server. We're servers. And that's what we're looking for, people of service. Finding the right talent is really important, retaining the right talent, all those things. Our employee benefits are great, from dog benefits to, adoption benefits. But it's all about taking good care of your family and treating people here like their family. The family picnic, the family Christmas party where we get the entire bank together, Christmas parties with their spouses, the annual celebration of excellence where we bring people in from all over the north half of the state for an afternoon of fun and talk, and maybe instill some things about hospitality or being our guest and why it fits into our mantra or something, why we're so focused on this. I mean, we're throwing a lot at them this year. There's no question about it. It's the 130th year, which is another milestone. The 125 was really big. So 130 is a big year, but then on top of that, immediately, in the 1st of April, the same time as the 130th, the J.D. Power Award came out of nowhere. And so it's like, oh my God, we got to gear up for that. And then there was the introduction of Be Our Guest, the hospitality movement. So there's a lot of things but all these things were meant to be. Henry decided to be the Bank of Whiting. It was the only bank in Whiting at the time, so what else would you call it other than the Bank of Whiting? And it stayed that way till, I want to say it was approximately 1961, and other banks were coming into town and branching. That's when there were 16,000 banks in every corner, and there was State Bank of Whiting, and so there was confusion because they were across the street. And so my dad said, too much confusion between the Bank of Whiting and State Bank of Whiting. We need to rename the bank. And they named it First Bank of Whiting. Not that was that differentiated, in my opinion, but anyway, it was the First Bank of Whiting. I came on board in 1972 and said, we need to change the name of this bank again, because it was only in Whiting and Highland at the time. And reached an agreement with my dad that I couldn't work just in Whiting. It was too small a fishbowl for me. And he agreed to expansion. And so we started expanding to other communities. And we didn't think First Bank of Whiting would ring true in other communities as well as it does in Whiting. So actually, I put a name forth that I thought we should change the name to. I was voted down by the board. So that was a stirring experience. Like, okay. It's like, we can't change the name of that board, or we can't change the name of that bank. And I said, well, you got to. It can't be the First Bank of Whiting in Dyer, in these other places. So then all their wisdom changed the First Bank. So it just came down to First Bank. And I said, well, that's not very differentiating. There are thousands of First Banks across the country. I said, it really doesn't set us apart. And I'm all about setting us apart, okay? So they decided to go with First Bank for a lot of years. I came up with a name later on, which they weren't crazy about. And so we put it out we brought in a firm from Denver to interview our employees, our customers, the community, the businesses, and say, what does this bank represent? And so to get to the guts of the organization, and they fabricated a name. Well, they came back with 3 names. I remember one was Legend Bank because we were so legendary, and I can't remember the other one, but the third one was Centier. I go, what's a Centier? And they said, well, we took the fact the bank started in Center Street in Whiting, Indiana. So we took Center, and part of your mission statement is to be the premier bank in Northwest Indiana. So they took the end of premier and put them together as Centier. And I said, okay, are you thinking to go? We'll give it a go. And we introduced it the first day, and people started calling it Centier after Cartier. And I said, no, it's not Centier, Centier. And so that was a whole challenge, a marketing challenge in and of itself. But, there have been different logos and different things, different, eagles and fireworks and different things as symbols and that. But, since 93, we're stayed on what we have, and we're going to stick with it.
Our thanks again to all the contributors who joined us for this episode of the Business Equity and Opportunities podcast. We hope you found it enlightening, useful, and inspiring. You'll find more information about the show on our website, beoshow.com. You can watch Business Equity and Opportunities Sunday mornings at 10 on Wish TV or live stream it through wishtv.com. Each week we provide 7 full segments with topics ranging from how to get started and how to access capital to the day-to-day running of your business and questions about accounting and bookkeeping. We feature business news and trends and always share a success story from one of our contributors. Join us next time for more insights into the world of small business. Be sure to sign up for our Business Equity and Opportunities newsletter to get even more valuable, up-to-date information. And if you have any questions or you'd like to be part of our show, please email us. The address is beo@wishtv.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Scott Sander. Thanks for listening.
Watch the Business Equity and Opportunity Show on Wish TV and access all of our content and share it on demand anytime at beoshow.com. You can find more podcasts from Wish TV on the All Indiana Podcast Network at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.